The Fever themselves put out this graphic today about tickets, how more tickets have just been released, and you can see that the starting five that I projected right there.
Sophie Cunningham is not happy right now, and honestly, can you blame her? The Indiana Fever just dropped what looks like a leaked graphic of their starting five.
And yeah, this is apparently what it's going to be. Caitlin Clark at the 1, Kelsey Mitchell at the 2, DeWanna Bonner at the 3, Natasha Howard at the 4, and Aaliyah Boston at the 5. Obviously.
And Sophie's name was nowhere on it. No heads up, no announcement, just boom, Clark, Mitchell, Bonner, Howard, and Boston. 5 names. One glaring omission, and Sophie's reaction? Yeah, she was furious. You could feel it. This wasn't some subtle, I'll prove them wrong energy. This was straight up fire. A veteran, a competitor, someone who's been grinding for this moment, now suddenly on the outside looking in. So what really happened here? Did the Fever accidentally reveal their hand too early? Was this a planned rollout that backfired? Or is there something brewing behind the scenes that we haven't seen yet? One thing's for sure, this lineup, if it sticks, could change the entire WNBA landscape. But if the locker room doesn't buy in, it could just as easily blow up in their face. Let's get into it. Now, while fans were busy breaking down the possibilities of this super team lineup, someone else was reading that leaked graphic a little differently, and she was not happy. Sophie Cunningham saw the starting 5, and let's just say, it didn't sit right with her. No cryptic emojis, no vague, I'll keep working posts. Just frustration. Because make no mistake, Sophie was fully expecting to be in that starting unit. She's not just a role player. She's a vocal leader, a grinder, someone who brings toughness, shooting, and that edge you need in close games. She's been around. She knows how to compete. And now she's seeing her name left off the graphic, replaced essentially, without a word? Yeah, she took that personally. Sources close to the team have hinted that she was furious about the way it all went down. Not just about being benched, but how it happened. Finding out through a social media post, no heads up, no direct convo, that stings. And for a player like Sophie, who thrives on respect, accountability, and being part of the inner core, that's a slap in the face. You could feel it in her body language. The way she addressed it in the media, cold, measured, but behind the scenes, people say she's not hiding how she feels. And honestly, who could blame her? Sophie's the type of player who brings fire to every practice. She doesn't coast. She doesn't take days off. And when a competitor like that gets iced out of the starting lineup, especially when she's done everything right, that creates tension. This wasn't some veteran gracefully passing the torch. This was a storm brewing, and it could either light a fire under the team or start fracturing what looked like a dream roster on paper. So the question now isn't just, why isn't Sophie starting? It's, what does this do to the locker room? Because if someone like Sophie Cunningham starts pulling back, even slightly, it could shift the whole team dynamic before they even play game 1. Let's set the stage real quick. Because if you're not following the Indiana Fever closely, you might not realize just how wild this moment really is. The Fever aren't just another rebuilding team anymore. They've been quietly, well, not so quietly, stacking talent. And now, they've got one of the most talked about rosters in the league. At the heart of it all is Caitlin Clark. Yeah, that Caitlin Clark, the college phenom who's been lighting up highlight reels, selling out arenas, and changing the way people watch women's basketball. She's officially in the WNBA now, and her presence alone has completely shifted the spotlight onto Indiana, but she's not doing this alone. Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most underrated scorers in the league, is still there. Aaliyah Boston, last year's Rookie of the Year, returns as a defensive anchor, and then they added battle-tested vets like DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard, both with championship pedigree. That's not a lineup, that's a problem for the rest of the league. Now throw Sophie Cunningham into the mix. She's tough, vocal, a true competitor, someone you want on your team when the game gets physical. She's also been expected to play a big role in this Fever resurgence. So when that leaked starting lineup came out and her name was missing, that wasn't just a small surprise. It was a statement, and that's what we're looking at here. A team on the edge of greatness, but also on the edge of potential tension. Because talent wins games, yeah, but chemistry? That's what wins championships. And right now, Indiana's got both the ingredients and the spark. So here's where things really blew up. Because this wasn't some random internet rumor or a blurry screenshot from a closed scrimmage. The Indiana Fever posted a graphic clear as day featuring 5 players front and center. And it didn't take a detective to figure out what it looked like. Their starting lineup. At point guard, Caitlin Clark. No surprise there. She's the engine of this team, floor general, long-range sniper, and walking highlight. Next to her, Kelsey Mitchell at the 2, one of the deadliest scorers in the W, averaging over 18 a game last season. Then you've got Dewana Bonner, who brings size, length, and deep playoff experience to the wing. Natasha Howard at the 4, a hard-nosed forward with defensive versatility and transition scoring. And anchoring the paint, Aaliyah Boston. Last, year's Rookie of the Year, and already one of the best interior defenders in the league. That's a 5-player combo that's as balanced as it gets. Scoring, defense, experience, youth, inside presence, perimeter shooting. They check every single box. But here's the thing. This wasn't labeled as an official starting 5. There was no press release, no coach quote, just a clean, polished graphic posted across team socials. And that's exactly why people started buzzing. Because if this was a mistake, someone hit send way too early. And if it wasn't, then Sophie Cunningham, and possibly others, found out their roles through a social media post. Which, yeah, that never sits well with players. Especially not ones like Sophie, who play with a chip on their shoulder and take pride in earning everything. Fans immediately started asking, was this the real lineup? Was this an accidental reveal? Or maybe even a soft launch? Indiana testing the waters to see how people would react. Whatever the case, the internet ran with it. Twitter lit up. Analysts started dissecting the combo, and fans began calculating how many wins this group could rack up before the All-Star break. Because intentional or not, one thing was clear. The Indiana Fever just gave us a very real look at how they plan to attack this season. And for the rest of the league, that should be terrifying. All right, let's talk about why this lineup isn't just good on paper. It might actually break the league if everything clicks. Start at the top. Caitlin Clark. We know what she brings. Elite court vision, deep range that pulls defenders out to near half court, and a playmaking instinct you just can't teach. She's not your typical rookie. She's already running the offense like a seasoned vet, reading defenses, throwing dimes before the cut even happens, and hitting logo threes that force teams to completely rethink their coverage. Then you've got Kelsey Mitchell right next to her, an absolute bucket. She doesn't need much space to score, and with defenses stretched trying to contain Clark, Mitchell's going to feast. Last season, she averaged over 18 a game, and that was without Clark attracting double teams and opening up the floor. Now, imagine her getting those same shots with a defender half a step late. Good luck. Dewana Bonner at the 3, that's your Swiss Army knife. She brings size at 6'4", length on the wing, and playoff experience you can't fake. She can guard multiple positions, hit the 3, or take smaller players down low. Her versatility adds a whole new dimension to this team. She's the glue player that championship teams always seem to have. Natasha Howard. Man, she's the X factor. Defensive menace, runs the floor like a guard, and thrives in pick and rolls. She's going to be cleaning up rebounds, switching on to guards when needed, and catching those sneaky pocket passes from Clark for easy layups. Think Draymond Green energy, but with more scoring punch. And finally, Aaliyah Boston, already a force down low. Her footwork, timing, and defensive awareness, way beyond her years. She's not out there hunting shots, she just quietly dominates. When double teams come for Clark or Mitchell, Boston's going to have a field day with open looks inside. But it's not just about the talent, it's the way these pieces fit. You've got playmakers, scorers, shooters, and defenders all meshing together. Everyone has a role. Everyone complements someone else's game. This isn't 5 stars playing hero ball. This is 5 weapons moving in sync. The spacing, unreal. The playmaking, top tier. The scoring potential, we're talking over 70 points per game combined, before you factor in how Clark's passing is going to elevate everyone's efficiency. And that's not even mentioning the defense, the rebounding, or the fact that this lineup forces you to pick your poison on every possession. You double Clark, Mitchell punishes you. You go small to match speed, Boston eats inside. You play zone, Bonner and Howard flash the middle and tear it apart. This lineup doesn't just attack, it overwhelms. And while fans are still processing the shock of the leak, coaches around the league, they're already trying to figure out how the hell they're supposed to stop this group. Now here's the twist. Even though Sophie's not in the starting lineup, she's still one of the most important pieces on this Fever roster. And honestly, if Indiana wants to make a serious playoff run, they need her bought in. Look, we get it. Coming off the bench isn't exactly what Sophie signed up for. She's used to being in the mix, starting games, setting the tone early. But the thing is, this lineup is so stacked that the 6th player might be just as valuable as the first 5. And Sophie? She's not your average bench piece. She's a weapon. She's tough, vocal, and fearless. She's the kind of player who brings intensity the second she checks in. She can hit threes, guard multiple positions, and give the team that emotional spark when the energy dips. And let's be real, every contender needs that kind of player. Someone who doesn't need to dominate the ball but can change the game just with effort and presence. And here's where it gets interesting. Sophie's versatility opens up entire lineup combos. You want to go small? Slide Sophie in at the 4, stretch the floor, and run teams off the court. Want to give Bonner or Howard a breather? Sophie can plug in and hold her own against almost any matchup. That's not bench filler. That's rotation glue. The player that keeps things running smoothly when the starters sit. She's the one who keeps the second unit from falling off a cliff. And if she embraces that role, Indiana becomes that much more dangerous. But that's the big if, right? Because it all comes down to mindset. If Sophie decides to lean in, own that 6th woman role, and prove she's still one of the most impactful players on the roster, even without the starter tag, she could literally be the piece that makes this whole thing work. But if she doesn't, if that frustration turns into disconnection, then yeah, we might see cracks before this team ever reaches its full potential. So yeah, she's not in the starting 5, but don't get it twisted. Sophie Cunningham's role still matters, maybe now more than ever. So now that we've covered the starting 5 and Sophie's place in all this, here's where things really start to separate the Fever from the pack. Their depth. This team doesn't just have star power, they've got legit firepower coming off the bench. And that's what turns good teams into contenders. Most squads, in the W, they've got 5 or 6 players they trust, maybe 7. But the Fever, they can come at you in waves. Let's talk Brianna Turner first. She's already showing signs of fitting into the system perfectly. She's long, active, and a natural screen setter. Exactly what you want around a playmaker like Clark. Her ability to run the floor, catch on the move, and finish through contact makes her a high-efficiency piece in those second-unit lineups. Think about what that does when Boston sits. You're not losing that paint presence. Then there's Lexi Hull. And listen, she was thrown into the fire last year. Had to guard players bigger, quicker, more experienced. But this season, with a deeper bench and more versatile rotations, she can go back to being what she truly is. An energy player who brings hustle, toughness, and perimeter defense every minute she's out there. No more chasing mismatches. No more foul trouble. Because she's covering for roster gaps. And don't sleep on Sydney Colson either. She's not flashy, but she's a leader. Someone who can come in and run the second unit, keep the offense organized, and help steady the ship when Clark's off the floor. And in a long WNBA season, with a rookie point guard, that's huge. What you're seeing is a roster that doesn't just have 5 great players. It has 10 or 11 who all bring something unique to the table. The rotations can shift based on matchups. They can go small, they can go big, they can lean into defense, or they can stretch the floor with shooters. They're flexible, which in the WNBA is rare. And here's the kicker. Even this second unit can score. You've got shooters, you've got defenders, you've got rim runners and veterans who know how to exploit mismatches. When the starters sit, Indiana doesn't slow down. They shift gears and keep pushing. That's how you win in the playoffs. That's how you survive back-to-backs. That's how you wear teams down until there's nothing left in the fourth quarter. So yeah, everyone's focused on the starting lineup. But the secret weapon? It's this rotation, this depth, this ability to stay dangerous for every one of those 40 minutes. All right, so we've talked about the players, but what really makes this team dangerous? It's the way Indiana plans to use them. Because this isn't just a lineup change, it's a complete offensive evolution. The Fever aren't just throwing talent on the court and hoping for the best. Nah, they're re-engineering how the game is played, and at the center of it all is Caitlin Clark. Now here's the wild part. They're not using her like your traditional point guard. Most teams stick their PG at the top of the key, let them dribble, call a set, run a high screen, boom, standard stuff. But Indiana, they're flipping the script. They're putting Clark in constant motion, off-ball cuts, flare screens, relocations to the corner, dribble handoffs into step-back threes. It's movement-based chaos, and defenses are going to hate every second of it. Think Steph Curry meets Sabrina Ionescu, except Clark has even more playmaking freedom. The idea is simple. Keep her moving. And you force defenders to chase her through multiple screens, close out from 28 feet, and somehow still rotate back to cover the paint if someone like Boston dives to the rim. Good luck with that. And it's not just about freeing up Clark for cleaner looks, though that'll definitely help boost her efficiency. It's about creating constant pressure, because when Clark's flying around the court, defenses start scrambling. When they scramble, they make mistakes. And when you've got shooters like Mitchell or cutters like Howard and Bonner, those mistakes become buckets. Even the bigs are part of this. Boston and Howard set hard screens, roll to the basket, or pop for mid-range jumpers, meaning Clark isn't just creating for herself, but opening up clean looks for everyone around her. It's pick your poison, basketball. The Fever aren't just modernizing their offense, they're weaponizing it. Every player is part of the movement. The floor spacing gets wider. The passing lanes open up. Mismatches are exploited in real time. And here's the scary part. This system's only going to get better with time. As Clark gets more comfortable, as the chemistry between her and Boston grows, as the shooters start hitting more in rhythm, this offense could become unstoppable. So if you're a team thinking you'll just load up on Clark like she's a rookie, you might want to watch a little tape. Because the Fever aren't running a basic set. They're building something that could completely rewrite the playbook on how point guards are used in the WNBA. And the rest of the league, they better start figuring it out fast. All right, so we've talked about the firepower, the depth, the tactics, even the behind-the-scenes drama. But here's the real question. Does this team have the championship DNA? Because talent is one thing, and Indiana has plenty of it, but titles aren't won by talent alone. They're won by culture, by chemistry, by a group of players and coaches who understand that it's not about who gets the spotlight, it's about who gets the win. And that's where this Fever roster starts to look really dangerous, not just on paper, but in mentality. You've got players like Dewana Bonner and Natasha Howard who have been through everything. Runs, locker room tension, role changes, championship pressure, and they know what it takes to survive it. These aren't just veterans. These are leaders. They bring a certain calm and toughness to a locker room that you just can't fake. Then there's Sydney Colson. Maybe not a star on the stat sheet, but someone who brings off-the-charts energy, positivity, and leadership. She's the kind of teammate who keeps spirits high, keeps younger players locked in, and isn't afraid to speak up when the team needs a reset. Every championship squad has a Sydney Colson type. And of course, you've got Stephanie White at the helm. She's been around Caitlin Clark before. She's coached Bonner. She knows how to handle high IQ, high-profile players. That familiarity matters. She's not walking into this season blind. She knows the personalities, the styles, the pressure that's coming. That kind of coach? That's a game changer. Now, the big question mark is buy-in. And yeah, that goes back to Sophie and maybe a few others. But if everyone accepts their role, leans into the system, and sacrifices personal shine for team success, this team's ceiling goes way beyond just making the playoffs. Because championship teams don't argue about minutes. They hold each other accountable. They cover for each other on defense. They make the extra pass. They talk through mistakes and bounce back better the next day. And for the first time in years, you can feel that energy in Indiana. It's not just hype anymore. It's not just the Caitlin Clark show. This is a group of grown, battle-tested women building something real, and they're doing it together. The Fever don't just have stars. They have a culture forming, one built on toughness, maturity, and a shared goal. Win now, not later. And that's the real foundation of a championship run. So yeah, this Indiana Fever team, it's not just exciting, it's dangerous. They've got a starting five that looks like it came out of an all-star fantasy draft. They've got one of the most electric rookies the league has ever seen, surrounded by scorers, defenders, and champions. And behind them, a bench that's deeper, smarter, and more versatile than we've seen in years. But the big question isn't about talent anymore. It's about balance. Can they keep everyone locked in? Can players like Sophie Cunningham find pride and purpose in a supporting role? Can this group buy into a system that demands sacrifice for the greater good? Because when you've got this much firepower, ego management becomes just as important as play calling. And then there's the mystery factor. Fag Bentley, unexpected roster moves, potential late-season tweaks. We might not have seen the final form of this team just yet. So now we wait. Will this supercharged lineup gel into something unstoppable? Or will the pressure, the minutes, and the spotlight start to crack the foundation before it ever solidifies? One thing's for sure, the Indiana Fever are no longer rebuilding. They're reloading. And the rest of the league, they better pay attention, because something special is brewing in Indiana. And it's about to get loud. If you're locked in like we are, drop your thoughts in the comments. Who should really be starting? Is Sophie right to be upset? And do you think the Fever are legit contenders this year? Hit that like button. If you enjoyed the breakdown, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Because this team, we're just getting started.